last decade, the idea that girls' education is the best thing that we can do in the developing world has become an exhilarating movement. There have been several big campaigns that have successfully spread the word. Girls who go to school have the power to change their communities, their countries, the world. Here are a few of these campaigns' taglines. Invest in a girl, she'll do the rest. One girl with courage is a revolution. Our future is in the hands of women everywhere. Girls and women watching in the developing world, no pressure. There's been more money, Western money, being put into girls' education worldwide than ever before, and for good reason. Girls who go to school marry later, they have fewer babies, and they are breaking societal barriers that their grandmothers and mothers could not have imagined. Education is improving the lives of women, except when it doesn't. If this movement is a revolution, then the girls participating are revolutionaries. And in every revolution, there are casualties. Opportunity can be life-changing, and it disrupts, and sometimes with dire consequences. I feel strongly about this, and this is why. As a filmmaker and a former educator of girls, I used to teach at an all-girls middle school. I set out to tell the story of one girl in Nepal and her education scholarship. And the story did not go as I had imagined. This girl's education story is complicated, it's messy, and it's tragic. When I met Shanta, I was so blinded by her opportunity and the hope that she represented that I didn't see the obstacles that she faced. In 2008, my husband and I went to Nepal to make a promotional video for an NGO, a nonprofit that provides scholarships for girls to go to school. In Nepal, only about 8% of girls make it past the 10th grade, and the average age of marriage is 16 in the rural areas. The NGO chose Shanta to be at the centerpiece of their fundraising video, and it was no mystery why. This girl was amazing. She was super bright, she studied nonstop, and she was determined to live a life different than her mother's. Her mother, her name is Sushila, was married at 14, is illiterate, and she does about 17 hours a day of back-breaking labor in order to feed her 6 children. She's probably working on her farm right now. Shanta, in the 7th grade, was the most educated person in her village. She told me and my camera, I'm going to do something. I want to be somebody. And I was certain that she would. About a year after returning back from Nepal, I got a call from the NGO with the news that Shanta had taken her own life. No one knew why. She was 17 and a year away from graduation. The loss of her hit me hard. Why did this girl, this rock star of her scholarship fund and of her village, commit suicide? The NGO requested that we edit Shanta out of the promotional video. And I sat at my computer, and every time that Shanta came onto the screen, I hit select and then delete. And it was at that moment that I knew I had to continue telling Shanta's story, no matter how hard it is to hear. The NGO's initial response was, why? There are so many girls who are making it. Tell their stories. But I couldn't get Shanta out of my head. So a month after she died, I went back to Nepal to find out what had happened to her. And that's when I learned that suicide is the #1 cause of death for girls and women in Nepal, ages 14 to 49, and the number is on the rise. Why did Shanta do it? She wasn't being forced to marry. She wasn't being sexually abused or sex trafficked. She wasn't pregnant. I think the reasons for Shanta's death are much more subtle and internal. It was premeditated. The week before, she went and tried to buy rat poison, but the vendor suspected what she might use it for. Rat poison is one of the number ways that women kill themselves in South Asia. And so Shanta went and bought a rope. I spent the last 4 years exploring why Shanta died, trying to understand her life by interviewing her families and her family and her teachers and her friends. I should have asked more questions. But I wasn't listening. I didn't listen carefully enough. I see myself as a metaphor for Western aid in the developing world. I thought that Shanta had everything that she needed. She had her tuition and her books and her uniform paid for. She even had a small monthly stipend. But she had won the globalization lottery, an education. What else did she need? I wish I had asked that. And now I've been asking a lot of questions. Did Shanta lose her sense of belonging? Did she had to, in order to get an education, she had to go to the city. Her school and her village is of such poor quality that it's barely worth attending. She had to leave her parents at 12 years old, and she only got to see them once a year. And they grew distant. Her mother told me that Shanta changed drastically after moving to Kathmandu. She dressed differently, she talked differently, she walked differently. She was no longer a village girl. She was such a stellar student that the NGO had her transferred to one of the best schools in Kathmandu, where she was of the lowest caste and one of the poorest. And it's not that her classmates were mean to her, it's just that she felt like she didn't fit. Did Shanta not feel supported? In Kathmandu, she lived with her brother and his family. And they lived in this tiny, tiny, cramped apartment. And her sister-in-law, Rabina, was extremely jealous of her. Shanta told me, "I think my sister-in-law doesn't understand me. I think it's because she's never been to school." Did Shanta just feel too much pressure? Her headmaster in the village told me that everyone was waiting for her to come home. Everyone was waiting for her to return and do great things. Shanta told her father, "Think of me not as a daughter, but as a son." Could Shanta not envision her future? She really wanted to be a doctor, but Shanta knew no Nepali female doctors. She wanted what a lot of teenage girls want. She wanted to impress. She wanted to be independent. She wanted to succeed. She didn't want to be a burden. Why are so many girls in Nepal killing themselves? We don't know. And Shanta's case is just one and cannot be generalized to the others. I'm telling this story of Shanta. I'm making this documentary about her and her family, the girl who knew too much, and it'll be out early next year. Because I think if Shanta had lived, she would have done something extraordinary. And maybe, in a way, she still will. I am not an expert in global development or mental health. I'm a storyteller. And I believe that we actually do want to hear the whole story, even with its complexities and its tragedies and its nuance. It's difficult stories that make us think. And this is what Shanta's story makes me think. Shanta did not know what girl power is. She just knew that she was powerful. And if she had had a peer group or a female mentor that she could have met with on a regular basis to talk about how awesome and weird and hard it is to be a girl who can read and write and make decisions for herself, I think she might still be alive today. And I think if her parents had been included in and educated about her scholarship experience, they might have better understood what she was going through. So I want policymakers to see this film. I want them to know Shanta's story. I want the Gates Foundation and the World Health Organization, state departments, and smaller grassroots NGOs to be inspired and to create best practices for girls' education. One that incorporates, truly incorporates the voices of girls and their families. I want girls like Shanta to know that she's not alone. So I propose this. I want to inaugurate the phase 2 of girls' education. And I have a tagline. Invest in the girls, and girl, we got your back. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.